Alright, tubes. I didn't want to get caught making any false promises here, so I decided to film my next segment of the heater video, which is taking it apart and looking at how it works. So I apologize I didn't get this up sooner, but I've been pretty busy the last couple weeks. If you guys didn't know, I'm a musician. You should have seen me in 805 Row Kings video, so that takes up a lot of time. And not to mention, I think my Ranger got destroyed, but I'll tell you about that in another video. That's a whole other story. So either way, as far as the heater is concerned, I got all the panels off here. So I guess what we'll start with is the connections going in, because as far as what you have to put into it, you got fuel on the back. Your fuel line goes on the back right here, and as I said before, that's just a flare fitting there. I just shoved the fuel line on top of it, but it's supposed to be a flare fitting, something more permanent. And then you got your exhaust coming out the back here, because as I said, it's a closed combustion chamber, so all your exhaust gases are able to be vented out somewhere. And then you've got power coming in. Now normally all your connections for that will be made in front here. They've got these real nice these special 3-pin military connectors there, where you can seal them up. You can unscrew them here. I think they're I forget who they're made by, but it's some special company known for making these connectors. And they're held on and everything like that, so they're pretty fancy. But your power would normally plug in there. Now, since I didn't have that fancy connector, and it was fortunate that this thing runs on 120 volts as opposed to like 28 volts or something like that, all I did was hook up a power cord of my own, which just goes in through the top here. It goes down around behind and into the front panel there. I just wired it in. So that's all the things that go into it as far as external hookups there. And then the interesting thing is right on top here you got your I can't remember what to call these things with all the squiggles and lines on it. A schematic diagram. I don't know why I forgot that. You got all that stuff in there, and it tells you all the different components and where they're at and everything and how everything hooks up. So that's pretty interesting. I think that's fairly common on military stuff. They just show that stuff, so when you need to make a repair, there's no need to look it up or anything. You got all the information right there. So I thought that was pretty interesting right on top of the cover there. So now I'll take it apart here, and I guess we could start with the fuel system. So what happens is, first your fuel comes in from the back there. We've already been over that. And then it goes through this filter separator here. Actually, it's not even a filter. All it is a separator, to get your dust and your water out of it and stuff like that. And then fuel comes down out of here. Of course, it's being pulled in by the fuel pump. So it goes through the fuel pump, and the fuel pump really isn't nothing special. It just clicks along, and not a high flow rate or anything like that, just enough. So it goes through your fuel pump, and there's a filter right in here. You can unscrew that, and that'll reveal your filter in there, which is kind of interesting. It wasn't dirty, we checked it. But either way, your fuel comes out the top of it, goes up along here, and then it goes into this thing. Now, if you think anything like small engine mechanic thought, you'd say that thing kind of looks like a float bowl. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what it is. So what confused us a little bit was you have fuel coming in here, and then your fuel line comes out the top. Now, I'm going to show it from down here. It's right up top there. And the reason I'm showing that is that your fuel level is only ever going to get up to right here, or wherever the float cuts it off. So what we couldn't understand is how's the fuel going to get out the top and into the combustion chamber. It just didn't make sense. Now what we realized was that this little thing down here is actually a fuel heater. And so what that does, or at least one of the things that it does, is it has, I guess, some kind of a heating element in there. And what that does is it actually vaporizes the fuel. So as opposed to having a high pressure fuel injector system, it's just a low pressure system where your fuel comes in here from the pump, and the pump just keeps chugging along to maintain a level, and your float will come up and shut it off. Your evaporator will be running here, and that'll be constantly boiling your diesel or jet fuel or whatever, and then that'll come and flow out the top here. So it'll flow out the top, and just as a vapor and being under pressure, it just goes right here into the combustion chamber. Now obviously the combustor pressure must be lower than whatever this is, otherwise it wouldn't work like that. But that's the story there. So that's how the fuel system works. Then you got a couple things as far as electronics here. You've got a glow plug here, which is connected to this high tension transformer down here, You've also got these two wires going in, which, as far as I know, these are either the igniters or they're a sensor of some kind. I'm not certain of what they are. I think it's a sensor. I don't believe it's an igniter. I think you just have your glow plug for ignition. So this is a sensor, whether it senses fuel flow or combustor temperature or something of that nature. I believe that's what that's for. Not certain on that though, so don't go trying to do anything with that and say that you lost your igniter or something, because that might not be what it is. And then you got your blower motor here. So there's two parts to that. You got your fan up front here, which might have some bad bearings. I have to check it because it's pretty noisy. That's what blows your air out. And then you have this right here, and this blower, your air comes out of that thing. It goes through this little squiggly pipe here, and it goes into the combustion chamber. So that provides your air for combustion, your high velocity air. And so that's kind of similar to an oil burner you'd find in your house. Almost the same principle, the way that works. And then you have a couple other electronics on board. You have this thing, which I believe is a thermocouple. It looks like a capacitor or some kind of a relay or something. And then it's connected to this copper wire. So that's why I think that's a thermocouple or some sort of sensor like that. And then you got a bus of wires right down here where all your connections are made, and then there's a bunch of relays and stuff in there which shut everything on and off, because this thing is all automatic. All the sensors do their own thing and turn it on. So for example, when you want to fire it up, the only thing you have to do is flip the switch, and once you flip the switch, the first thing it'll do is it'll turn your glow plug on, set that going. And then your fuel preheater will start working. Once they're up to temperature, your fuel pump will come on, your blower motor will come on, and shortly after that it will ignite. Now the only other thing I can mention here is up front. I already showed you the connections, but this is your, you might want to see this. This is your combustion chamber, and it's kind of neat the way it's designed so that the air can go around it. I'm thinking it probably doesn't last that long because you got flame blowing on the side right there. So I'm kind of worried that that's going to burn through because it's not the thickest of metals. But I'll worry about that when the time comes. I'm sure it'll be fun to make another one of them. Probably have to find a TIG welder. But then you got some kind of sensor there. You got, it's kind of hard to see because I'm not focused on it, but there's a rail that goes along the back there into the back portion of the combustion chamber. I think that's another thermocouple, because what happens is, I didn't feel like taking the cover off here, but that's where your exhaust goes out. It goes out the back of that thing. You can kind of see it from the top here. That little pipe down there, that's your exhaust pipe, and then just out the back it goes. But that's about it. I think that's probably the most thorough explanation I can give of how it works. I'm sure there's a few things I could think of what I wanted to say, but I can't always include everything in here. And plus, we're getting pretty short on time. This is a long video. So if you guys got any questions, you can definitely ask them, and I'll be happy to answer them. And I hope you enjoyed this video, because this is a neat heater in my opinion. Just because it's compact, it puts out a lot of heat. And it's military, so anything military is cool to me. Alright, tubes, thanks for watching.